Alright guys, I have the fenders and the doors in the spray booth hanging up. So I have the driver's side and the passenger side just like they mount on the car. I'm going to leave the hood and trunk lid in here. It's not going to hurt anything if a little bit of overspray were to get on it. They have not been sanded down yet, so it's not a big issue. I have all these taped off. I pulled all the hardware out and shoved the latch into there and covered it with some tape because I'm going to clean up all that hardware because somebody painted it the last time they painted the car. So it's ready to go. In a minute here, we're going to wax and grease remove it. I've already blown them off 3 times. I'm going to use wax and grease remover, blow them off one more time, and then it'll be ready for the tack rag and then a coat of epoxy primer. I got to heat up the spray booth because it's only 50 some degrees in here, about 53. So these parts are as cold as it is in here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn some heat on, let it get warmed up. While it's warming up, we can put we can clean them. Okay, I have my wax and grease remover. I'm going to spray it on pretty heavily. Loosen up all that dirt that's stuck on the primer. You don't want to do your door jams the same time you do your exterior. Do your exterior and then do your door jams. Because if you have any sort of grease in there, and you wipe it there first, and then you pull it out here, then you can run the risk of contaminating it and having fish eyes in your paint job. And wash your hands or wear gloves. So I'm going to go around and wipe all these down real good. And then get them blown off again. And then we should be ready for epoxy primer. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to mix up some epoxy primer now. This is a 2-to-1 mix. 2 parts epoxy, 1 part hardener, and 10% reducer I put in it. Then I have to tack cloth off the parts, and then we will be ready to put this on. All my reducers I'm using are slow reducers. The clear coat has a slow hardener. When you're using heat, you want to kind of slow down the drying process, because if you're using a medium or a fast hardener and it's warm, it's not going to flow out. It's going to be it's going to dry faster than it can flow out. Also, with the metallics, I like to use a slow reducer to help them lay down. I noticed if you use like a fast reducer or a medium reducer, it dries really fast and it could change the look of the metallic. At least I've noticed that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up, go out there, I'm going to tack cloth off the parts, and then we're going to put a coat of this epoxy primer on. Not only does this cover the bare metal and any body work that's showing, but it also helps fill in any sanding marks that I possibly missed. When I'm out there painting, you might see the lights flickering a little bit. I got one of the control boxes in the light is bad, and I have to change it. So it's not horrible, but it is doing it a little bit here and there, so you might notice that. So alright, I'm going to get this mixed up real good, and then we'll go out there and put a coat on. Okay, I gotta let that dry for a good 15 minutes. These cups are awesome, but they have one drawback. As the material's getting low in them, your spray doesn't come out as much. So it's not as big a deal on clear coat, but on color you want to try to not do that. You know what I mean? Towards the end of your coat, you don't really want to be having your spray pattern decrease in size because you're running out of material. That's the only downfall I've ever seen from these cups. Other than that, I really like them. And if you're wondering, I did not strain it because there is a strainer built into the lid, so you don't have to strain your paint. If you look right here, there's a strainer right in there. So, alright, I'm going to get this gun cleaned. This is a SATA 3000, this one is 2000. This is a SATA 2000. This is really old. This is probably 25 years old. I'm going to use this for the color, and then I'm going to use either a 3000 or a 4000 for the clear. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned. My paint shaker, this paint shaker, you can't put a gallon of 2K primer on it. This is the second time I've broken one of these springs. I have more springs. I just did not have time to change it today. I forget which one it is. So I can't put the gallon of paint on there, but I just need to know from now on not to put the 2K primer on there. Just put it in this other one here that just stirs it. And it should be fine, and that shouldn't happen again. I think just the weight of the primer is just too much for this. So I'm going to have to really stir that paint good because I'm not going to be able to mix it. So let me get this gun cleaned and I'll be back. Mine will show you. All my primer and color gets washed in this gun washing cabinet. My clear gun, I rinse it out with lacquer thinner. I do not put it in this cabinet. Reason why I don't put it in this cabinet is I could possibly contaminate the clear gun with a piece of metallic and really screw it up. What I'm doing here is tying the trigger open, because you tie the trigger open and then you put this into the gun here, into the air inlet, and then you set it on top of the right here. So what it's doing is it's flushing thinner through the whole entire gun, and then these jets everywhere are spraying the outside of the gun. It works actually really well. And then what happens is there's a 5 gallon of thinner down there. It puts the dirty paint and thinner into the 5, and then there's a sock on the pickup tube that strains it as it comes back up. And I've noticed that after about 6 months, 8 months, that thinner evaporates. So what you're left with is just a solid product in the bottom of the gun washing cabinet, which is nice because then you could just, you know, throw it away at that point. You just can't throw it away if it's liquefied. So, all right, I'm gonna start stirring up that paint. This paint came from eBay, restoration shop. This is the second time I'm gonna be using it. Never tried glue before. I had really good luck with it on the first go around. It's like $400, $410 or so shipped for the hardener, the gallon of clear, a gallon of reducer, and a gallon of paint. Now this paint is a 2-to-1 mix. So it's 2 parts paint, 1 part reducer. A lot of paints are 1-to-1 mix. So, you know what I mean, 1 part paint, 1 part reducer. This uses less reducer. So a gallon only makes 1.5 gallons, but that's perfect on something like a convertible. You know what I mean? You can do a whole car with that. You just got to be careful. My goal is probably 2 good coats of color, and then a drop coat of color, which will just be a light coat, and then 3 coats of clear. That's my goal. I still have some clear left over from the last kit I bought, so I'm going to start with that before I open this. I probably have enough to where I don't need to open that right now. And I have an opened reducer too. So I'll go ahead and get this ready, and then we'll come back and I'll tack cloth those off, and then we're going to start putting on the color. Let me try to show this to you as I'm mixing it up. I did notice with this brand of paint that the metallics seem to be a little bit more vibrant. They're a little bit heavier than like a traditional old paint coat for this car. It wouldn't have as much metallic in my opinion. And this color is not exact
original color. We just picked something that was close, because once again, we're doing a budget paint job here, so we want to make sure that we you know, do it within price range here. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. If you guys are spraying in a spray booth or with a fan that you're exhausting, you always want to start with your parts farthest away from the exhaust fan. Work your way towards the exhaust fan. What that does is all your overspray goes on the front panels, and then you wet it with your product when you get to the front panels. If you spray the front ones first and then go to the back ones, what you're going to happen is, especially on clear coat, let's say you spray that fender and it's beautiful, clear laid out, beautiful, it's nice and glass looking, and then you go and you do the door behind it. What's going to happen is that overspray is going to stick onto that, and then all of a sudden your beautiful clear is now dull because your overspray from the door went on it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Always try to figure out which way your air is moving. Whether you have a garage and you're putting exhaust fans under your garage door, you know, obviously you want to start at the back of the garage and work towards the garage door. And also you got to keep in mind you need makeup air. You got to have air coming into your building to be able to suck it out of the building. If you don't have enough air coming into the building, your fans are only going to be so effective. I'm running 2 exhaust fans on this spray booth that I built. I am going to do a video at some point on how I built this and what I have for the setup. A couple people have asked me that, so I'll do a video on that. I'm running 8,800 CFMs of air, and how I came up with that measurement was the width of the booth and the height of the booth, and then you divide it by something which I don't remember what you divide it by, maybe by 100 or something like that, I forget, and it came out to like 9,000 CFMs. So I'm just under what it recommends. So it actually works really well. It evacuates the overspray pretty quickly. I mean, color and primer and sealer, it goes really well. It will slow down a little bit on clear coat, especially if you're hammering it on. But also on my booth doors, I have 2 sets of intake filters which are sticky on one side. So it is sucking air in, and it's grabbing any dust that's coming into the filters and sticking to the filters. Now, I actually use the air from my back shop. I open the man door going into the back shop, and that's where I'm sucking air from. In the cold winter, I cannot run both doors with the filters open. I have to shut it down to one side because it sucks the heat out too fast. The heater is 150,000 BTU natural gas heater, and it works totally fine with only one set of intake filters open. If both sets are open in the real bad winter, you'll notice it. I have sprayed with it about 0 to 10 degrees outside, and I have been able to keep the spray booth at about 68 to 70 degrees. So I consider that a win. I think that's pretty damn good, especially for only 150,000 BTUs. You know, a professional spray booth, you're looking at a million BTU furnace, but a professional spray booth will go from 70 degrees to 140 degrees in a matter of a minute or less. I can get to 140, 150, probably even 160. That spray booth is insulated extremely well, and it's 5/8 fire rated drywall all on the inside. So everything's sealed pretty nice. A little bit of air gap around the lights, and that's where the overspray likes to stick to. But anyways, it takes me about 10 minutes to get it up to about 140 degrees. In the summertime, right away it'll go up there. I usually don't use the heater in the summertime. And also, after I'm done painting, I wait about 10-15 minutes. I let the fans run. I let all the solvent that I can exhaust out of the paint. What that does is, at that point, I will shut off the exhaust fans and then run the heater full blast. And it takes about, like I said, about 10 minutes to get to about 140 degrees. I have had it at 150, and I guarantee it'll go higher than that, but there's no reason for that. You know, I don't think there's very many paints and clears that go over 140 degrees. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm just trying to teach you a couple things that I had to learn on my own from either reading about it or, you know, just experimenting with it. I think this, I don't know if this one tells you. Yeah, okay. You can force dry this for 10 minutes. Okay. Flash dry for 10 minutes, which is basically just letting your fans run for 10 minutes. My opinion, I'd let it run for 15. And at that point, turn off your exhaust fans, and they want you to bake it at 140 degrees for 30 minutes. So if I were going to bake this clear, which I'm not going to because it doesn't need it, but if I were going to bake this clear, I would probably run for about 40 minutes because it's going to take me 10 minutes to get up to 140 degrees. And then at that point, I just have to maintain 140 degrees. If I don't start throttling the heater down, I throttle the heater down with my gas valve, which, you know, slows the heater down. If I don't do that, it'll just keep building heat and building heat and building heat. So it's always good to, you know, once you get it at where you want it, then you just start watching your heater, turn it down, and just keep an eye on the thermostat. That's just an outside not a thermostat, thermometer that you would hang outside, and it goes to 160, I think it is, 140 or 160, I forget. But anyways, that's just a little bit of what's going on with the spray booth that I built. And then this mixing room back here, all the paint is stored in fireproof cabinets. These cabinets are explosion-proof cabinets, so if a fire were to break out and it were to get hot enough, the paint would explode in the cabinet and not shoot out of the cabinet. So it still could explode, but it's going to contain it. If you just have gallons of paint everywhere in your shop where it catch on fire, these will literally explode. When they explode, it's going to shoot the paint everywhere, and then it's going to make the fire that much hotter and that much more aggressive because this stuff is highly flammable. So you want to, you know, take precautions when you use it. I try not to leave a lot of extra paint. I try to give anybody that I ever do a paint job for, I give them the extra paint because I don't want it. You know, and anymore, I don't really do much for anybody else, so I, you know, just do my own stuff, which I am starting to gather a bunch of paint up. And if you have to go to dispose of it, it gets expensive to, you know, get rid of the paint. So, all right, I'm going to get this in the gun. We're going to go out there and get a coat of paint on it. But I will be making a video on the spray booth for you guys at some point. Crap. Sorry, one more thing. I always do this with a gallon of paint. I take this little punch here and I poke holes in the rim so that the extra paint drains back down into the can after you pour it. Now, you would think that this would dry the paint out, but it doesn't. I've never had the paint dry out for me doing that. All right, I'm done rambling. that's coat number 1. And as you can tell, it covers pretty good. I mean, I used just about a whole cup for 1 coat. I might just do 3 full coats. I think I should. It's a little bit mottled looking, and what mottling is you'll see a little bit of inconsistencies where there's a little bit of lights and darks. But we are still on our first coat, so I'm not trying to put it on real heavy. I like to try to put my metallics on a little lighter. I like to pull away from the panel a little bit more. I'm probably about 10 to 12 inches around away from the panel. By doing that, it opens your spray pattern up more and gets it to, you know, flow out farther. So I'm going to wait about another 5 minutes. I'm going to get another batch mixed up, and then we'll start on the same door that we started on the first coat. So driver's door, passenger fender, driver's fender. By doing that, it keeps our times right. You know, they want about, I don't know if it says on here or not, application 2 to 3 medium coats with overlap of 75% until hidden. Color matches are achieved. Once color matches are achieved, allow each coat to dry 5 to 10 minutes, flash, or until finish is dull. And they want a dry film of 2 to 3 mils, which I never do that. I don't even have a mil gauge to put on there to see how thick it is. I mean, I just go until I like the way it looks. So, all right, let me get our coat mixed up, or another thing mixed up. We'll put the second coat on. up the last batch. We're still doing really, really good on the paint. I'll bet you after we get done with the hood, the trunk lid, and the front cowl, we'll probably have just over half a gallon left, which will make 3/4 of a gallon, and we only have to do 2 quarter panels, a tail pan, and you know, that other piece between the convertible top and the trunk lid. That coat took me 5 minutes. The reason why I know that coat took me 5 minutes is the light turned off in here, the light turns off in here after 5 minutes. So all right, I'm gonna mix up the next batch, and then we're gonna put the last coat just on the outside only. And also keep in mind, every coat that you put on, you want to wait an extra minute or two. Not as critical for the color as it is for the clear. Let's see what it says here. Allow 10 to 15 minutes flash time between coats. Apply 2 wet coats of clear. So basically they want 10 to 15 minutes between the first coat and the second coat. We're going to put 3 coats on. So rather than waiting 10 to 15 minutes for the third coat, we're going to wait 15 to 20 minutes. Just to make sure that we are not trapping a bunch of solvents underneath. And also, once we get done with this last coat of color, they want you to wait, what was it, 5 to 10 minutes? We're going to wait 15 minutes before we start putting on the clear. All right, if you have a little bit of paint, you can pour it back in your gallon. Now, if you start pouring a bunch of extra paint back in your gallon, you'll have to keep that in mind, and you're going to want to use less reducer the next time you use the paint, because if you just keep pouring this back in there at a 2-to-1 mix, that's going to keep getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Luckily, we're doing this car in 3 paint jobs: fenders and doors, hood, trunk lid, and front cowl, and then the body. So we won't have a ton of extra paint that goes in there. Also, I like to leave it in the, use a strainer again to pour it out. So you can see there's a ton of paint here still. I mean, we're gonna have over a half a gallon after I spray that trunk lid and hood. Now, when I spray the trunk lid and hood, I'm gonna spray it laying down, and then I'll just paint the backside afterwards. So this, just let it dry out, whatever's left in there, and then throw it away. So, all right, I'm gonna get cleaned up here. I got about 10-15 minutes to wait. I'm gonna wait about 15 minutes. That's another thing that can cause modeling in metallics, is rushing it and starting to throw the clear on before the metallic paint is dry. That could cause lights and darks in your metallic paint job. So be patient, let it dry, let it do its thing before you start putting your clear on. As you can tell, I put my second and third coat, I put a coat from the top down, and then I worked my way back up a little bit quicker. And what I was doing is kind of just like misting more metallic on to just kind of blend it all in and kind of try to, you know, make it lay nice and flat. So, all right, I'm gonna get the gun cleaned and everything, and then we'll be back for clear. Okay, we're gonna mix up the clear here. This is a 4-to-1 mix. I always put 10% reducer in my clear. Wonder what that's from. Hopefully just oh, it's from the can of paint. I was like, hopefully I didn't rub against the panel out there. But anyways, it's a 4-to-1 mix. They don't say anything about clear. I'm sorry, reducer. I always put about 10% in there to thin it down just a little bit, so that it lays a little flatter, especially when you're running some heat. I'm at about 75 degrees right now in there, so a little bit of reducer will give it a little bit more flowing. Now, this particular restoration shop clear, this is probably $100 a gallon of clear, give or take. The cheaper clears, the only difference between a cheaper clear, in my opinion, and an expensive clear is UV protection. This clear might only be 3 to 5 years, might only be 3 years UV protection. A good clear might be 5 to 7. And also, a really, really good clear might give you a little bit of a higher gloss level. But, you know, it just all depends. I've sprayed $50 clear, I've sprayed $800 a gallon clear. And to me, in my opinion, on an old car, I wouldn't waste the money on a really, really expensive clear. But, you know, you do what you want to do and what makes you comfortable. You know, just because I use a cheaper clear doesn't mean that you should, you know what I mean? But let's say you use a cheaper clear that's only 3 to 5 year UV protected, okay? That's 365 days a year outside. So you're looking at 1,000, almost 1,000, 369, over 1,000 days that your car sits outside. And I don't know if they still consider UV protection if it's cloudy or if it's just sunny out. So, you know, they're saying 3 to 5 years, so at 3 years, you're over 1,000 days of your old car sitting outside. 99% of people don't leave their old car outside. I've used cheap clear like this. Actually, my Dodge Dart, my purple Dodge Dart, I used cheap clear on it. I used Summit Clear. It was like $100 or $80 with Harden. And I painted that car over 8 years ago. And that car is still as shiny as when it was painted. It's never dulled up. It's not peeling. It's not doing anything. It just looks as good as the day I sprayed it. So, I mean, you know, that's up to you guys. Whatever you want to use. But it's just what we're using for now, especially on this car. You know, on that 59, that got a better clear on it than this. But, all right, I'm going to get this mixed up. It's a 4-to-1 mix. I'm going to add 10% reducer in it. I got a little bit of clear on that lid, so I got to try to get it to open. All right, I'm going to go run the rag light tack cloth on those parts, and then we're going to put the clear on. The first coat of clear, I'm not going to do the door jambs. I'm only going to do the exterior surfaces. Second and third coat will hit the door jambs. Sorry about the camera there. That's the first coat. I put it on a little dry, not super duper heavy. Now we're gonna let that set for 10 to 15 minutes. So if your first coat doesn't look super flat, don't get nervous. But don't go and make your second coat super wet, because then you're gonna run it. But think of the first coat as an adhesive. A sticky adhesive that you just sprayed on that panel that is going to accept the second coat of clear. And that's real important to do that so that you don't run it, you know. And this is that fine line I'm talking about. I'm running about 75 to 80% overlap on my clear. What that means is when your spray gun comes like this and you come down to your next row, about 80% of it's going to cover your first row, you know, and then you go down to the next one. And that's a fine line that you walk, and you got to get used to how fast you move your gun. If you're putzing your gun along really, really, really slow and you're running 80% overlap, you're going to start running the crap out of it. If you're doing 80% overlap and you're moving kind of quickly, you're going to be dry. It's going to be dry, it's going to be orange peel. So there, like I said, there's a real fine line to figuring out, you know, what to do to get it to the right consistency, and that just comes with time. Now, if you get a run, you can put more clear out over it, and then you can wet sand it out. Usually you can get them out, sometimes you can't, depending on how bad the run is. If you get a ton of orange peel, it's more of a pain in the ass sometimes than getting a run out. But if you get it right in the middle is where you want to be, you know what I mean? And then as you get better at painting and better at painting, you'll find out that you'll be able to lay it down smoother and smoother. And I noticed that if I don't paint for a while, which I have not painted a car in about a month, that once you start painting like on daily basis, you get better and better quicker. Seems like when you take a little time off, you might end up a little light with your clear or run it because, you know, you're just not used to doing it. So, all right, I'm gonna get another batch mixed up. This time we're gonna get the jams and then the outside. So we'll do the door jams, then the outside of the door, and just work our way around again. This is what's left over after the first coat without the jams. I'm saving this off to the side. I'm mixing a whole nother cup. After I get done with this coat, I probably won't really have much left because I'm doing the jams, which is probably going to eat that up. Or I might even run out while spraying and need this little bit to finish the jams. And then we need to mix one more batch for the third coat. add that little bit of clear to this that's left in here. Up for one more coat. If you guys, anybody that wants to build a spray booth, like I said, I'm going to make a video, and I think what we have here plus another mix is probably just going to be enough. Like when you go to buy fans, exhaust fans and stuff, make sure you buy explosion-proof exhaust fans. That what it is it's a sealed motor that doesn't have any, you can't, overspray can't get inside the motor. If a spark were to happen inside the motor, it could ignite. I mean, for years I ran regular fans and never had an issue, but you know, there could always be that one time that something could happen to you. So, you know, if you're gonna invest in it, make sure you know, get the right fans and stuff. I definitely would recommend them. Plus they're gonna hold up better. If you just stuff a regular fan in there, even though there's exhaust filters, still a little bit of debris gets past it and it gets on the fan. So if you have an open motor, it's just going to kill it over time because of the overspray that will eventually build up in there. It's going to take a while, but it will happen. So I hate to, you know, explosion-proof fans are expensive. You know, you could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a fan. You know, it just all depends. But you get what you pay for on that kind of stuff. You know, if you're planning on doing a lot of this stuff, if you're just a do-it-yourselfer doing your car at home, make a makeshift spray booth. You know what I mean? You don't need to have anything super fancy. You know how many years I just painted just in the middle of the shop with dirt everywhere, and I did just fine with that. Now, this is laying out pretty good. I don't know if I'll do a ton of wet sanding and buffing on this car. I might just leave it, just maybe knock out anything that needs to be knocked out, and then that gives the option of somebody in the future to be able to do a really good wet sanding and buffing on the car and have plenty of product to be able to do it. So alright, I'm going to get this mixed up. I'm going to wait for a good 5 more minutes. It's been about 5 minutes maybe. So yeah, I'm going to wait probably another 10 minutes. clear in my gun. That dry for about 10 minutes. I'm going to get this gun cleaned out, and then we'll go take a look at it. I know that I have one little sag, and it's around the passenger door handle, where the passenger door handle goes in. I saw two little lines over there. Nothing bad. They'll come right out. For the most part, I don't think I'm going to need to wet sand and buff this unless it dries funny. As long as it dries and it still looks as good as it does now, I'm not wet sanding and buffing it. I have maybe 2 pieces of dirt in it. That's how much clear I have left. So that's what you want to try to do, is try to mix your stuff up so you're not wasting a bunch of product. That's not bad at all. That's probably 2 ounces or so, 3 ounces. So I'm trying to lay this on as flat as I can because I don't want to wet sand and buff this car. Like I said, as long as it dries good, I'm not worrying about it. I'll just fix that little sag and maybe a dirt nib here and there. I'm sure the trunk lid and hood are going to have some garbage in them because I'm going to lay them flat, which that's fine. I could hit those likely with, maybe I'll just hit them with a DA. But it looks really good. You can see that's cheap paint, cheap clear. It looks really good, and it actually looks pretty damn flat. If I would have 2K primered it again and block sanded it, it would be awesome looking. I mean, but for what this is, it looks pretty damn good. You know, I'm very happy with it. For a budget paint job, I think somebody's gonna be really happy with this. Everything looks nice. All the body work looks good. I don't see anything out of place. Where one of the moldings go, you can see a little bit of maybe an edge of where I feathered out the paint, but you're not gonna see it once the molding goes over top of it. So, all right, I'm gonna clean this gun up, clean up my mess, and then we'll go take a look at it.
All right, here we go. I don't know about you, but I think that looks pretty damn good. Nice and flat. Few little pinholes there in the bodywork. This door over here is the one where I got that sag. Right here. But it's actually leveled out a little bit more than what it was. There's a little bit right there. So I must have just hit that a little hard there. That will come out. I'm not worried about that. But I mean, look at how smooth this is. And the color's a little funky. I don't necessarily like the color. To me, it has a little bit of a purplish hue to but that could just be me. I'm getting old, my eyes are going bad, but I'm happy with it. I mean, look at it's not bad. For one block sanding and filler priming, I mean, how can you complain, you know? Like I said, if we did this the second time, it would be even better, but is it worth it? You know? I mean, look down it. So tomorrow's video, I am actually off of work tomorrow. My goal tomorrow is to weld that last patch onto the driver's side quarter panel, that wheel lip area. I want to weld that last patch on, and I want to try to get all the body work done and filler prime that car tomorrow. I'm probably just going to filler prime it outside. If it's nice outside, I'm just going to spray filler primer outside. That stuff has next to no overspray. So fingers crossed, everything goes well. It's supposed to be 60 degrees tomorrow. It's a little on the cool side, but especially if the sun comes out, it'll be plenty fine. But I want to get that car in filler primer tomorrow so that Thursday, probably Thursday afternoon, I want to paint that hood and trunk lid, the top sides of them, and then I'll wait a few days and I'll flip them over and I'll paint the bottom sides. Now, keep in mind, if you guys are going to build a spray booth, like I said, I will do a video here. Let me get caught up a little bit. Gotta get some stuff out of here. I literally have cars, parts, and arcade games piled everywhere. My basement's all torn up. I just got too many projects going on at one time. Let me get caught up a little bit, and then I'll do an extensive video on how I did everything and how it works, what's hooked up to where. If you guys have sprayed in a garage your whole lives and with not a lot of air movement, it will be a learning curve. When you go from spraying in your garage with just an exhaust fan in the door to actually spraying in a controlled area that has air coming in at a certain speed and going out at a certain speed, it's going to change your whole life. You're going to go from using fast and medium reducers and hardeners to slow. I didn't know that at first. 2 years ago I built this, and my clear was looked like shit. It was all dry, or I'd run it because I'm trying to put it on heavy. I was literally frustrated, like to the point where I was like, why can't I paint anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is going on? Why can't I not paint? And it was all to do with air movement. I spent so many years painting in just the garage that I used a spray booth a couple times at a body shop across the street from me, and I always did okay over there, but for some reason it just really was a game changer, and it took me a little bit to get used to it, but eventually I did. I was getting quite a bit of dirt at first, but I had just built the spray booth. No matter how well you clean it, at first you're gonna get dirt because it's gonna fall out of places that you just can't see or know about, you know. And the spray booth right now is dirty. I could show you the floor. I mean, I could scuff the floor with my boot, and I'll show you. You can see overspray come off the floor. It's just powder dust on the floor right now. I didn't clean it before I painted these today, and you can see how clean they are. A lot of things is don't rush. Let your product dry. Don't get in a hurry. If you screw up, don't get discouraged. It's just paint. You can always fix it. Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit more money, but you can always fix it. It's never to the point where it's screwed up, to the point where you can't fix it. You can always fix it. Just take your time. And I've also noticed, especially the older I get, if you rush around, like if I wanted to sand both these doors and fenders today and then paint them today, I probably wouldn't have done that. I think what I would have done was put it in epoxy primer, let it sit overnight, because you have 24 hours to cover that with the base coat before you have to scuff it and redo it. I would probably have let it sit overnight. And I've also noticed letting stuff sit overnight, for some reason, could just be me, but I noticed that like the next day, I end up getting less dirt in my paint jobs than if I were to rush it. Is it A, because I didn't clean myself off good enough, blow myself off, you know, and that's where the dust came from? You know, I'm not sure. You know, it's just,
You got to just keep trying things until you come up with what works for you. Everybody's different. I could preach to you on how I do things. You can do exactly what I do, and it could look like crap. It could look better than what I do. You know, you just don't know. You have to be your own person. You have to figure out what works for you. You know, every single person's different. Everybody has a different technique for spraying. I don't think that there's any wrong way or right way. I just think it just depends on the person. So, all right, I'm going to end this video. I'm going to go eat dinner. I'm going to let these dry overnight. Tomorrow, I'm going to make my next video on finishing up the body, and I will see you guys later. I appreciate all the comments, likes, shares. I mean, I'm almost at 700 subscribers already. I can't believe it. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, people keep watching. I'll keep making them. There's always going to be something different going on. And hopefully, we'll just keep growing and keep doing more. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.